Let's explore what's left of this amazing old store in a burnout ghost town. This is absolutely destroyed. I can't believe the size of this mine shaft. Welcome everyone to Weekend Escapades. I'm standing in front of a Mormon handcart. Now, between the years of 1847 and 1869, more than 68,000 saints came to this area, and handcarts is how they moved many of their wares and goods across the plains to head into Utah. Enterprise, Utah, just off SR 18, headed to a most interesting destination. We are here, Stateline Ghost Town. We're walking right down what would have been Main Street. Now, this location was developed in the late 1800s and was devastated by fire as late as 2020. So the buildings that still exist are the remains of the stone buildings, but most of the wood in the structure is gone. There's a beautiful old store behind us that still has the storefront. Let's take a look at what's left of Stateline. There's an amazing mill up on the hill, and that was hit by fire as well. Come along and join the adventure. All right, so good news is, once you get off the main road or like gravel, whatever it is, it's pretty rough. But they've plowed this one or graded it just a little bit, so it looks a little better and smoother. This is better than the road coming in. That is what remains of the old storefront. Right next to it, you'll see the foundation of another building. It was quite a bit here up till about 2020. Again, this whole area devastated by fire, and you can sure see it in the trees that surround the area. This is a fascinating old storefront. Let's go in and see what we can find. If I'm not mistaken, this had an area in the back that was like cold storage as well. They would have kept perishables in there, kept them cold when they could. It's plenty hot here. See, like the fake tin brick on the front of the building. That's awesome. So a lot of old structures still here. A lot of them are smaller, look like they were cabins. But this is crazy. Looks like there's an old nest up there. Some pretty big sticks in that nest. Interesting to see how even the burnt wood will hold up. Had two windows back here. Looking out. And I think this is where like the storeroom was, or the ice house. Yeah. You see the way the walls was dug into the dirt back here. Then there's the big timbers for the structure. This came off the back. And then here's the door that I came out of. And that's the front of the store from the back. It's crazy how the fire didn't get this part of the building, but it got everything else in town. So we found the trash pile, all the cans. There's always one close to the buildings. There's a lot of these buildings still standing, and there's a lot of the rubble on the ground from the buildings that used to be here as well. Multiple locations. So a lot of the buildings are down. This was a huge location. They had quite a few residents back in the day. For years, this was a lawless old mining town. If I'm not mistaken, this building, somebody had mentioned to me at one time that this was a vault. As you can see, there would be no doors here, but there's one there. This whole wall is falling in, but there's no windows and no doors. An area where they kept some of the fine metals. when the town existed. Yeah, from the road you really can't see it, but here's another, what was building, but it's dug into the ground. Those walls are pretty heavy. A lot of folks had said that watch the channel that some of the places that are built in the ground and have the heavy walls like that are places where they kept, dynamite or explosives. So if anything did happen, it wouldn't get out of control. It's been just a minute since we've done, a true ghost town. With winter and everything made it a little difficult. But like we said, every time we do a ghost town, what do we find? The old bed springs. And here they are. You know you're in a ghost town when you see those. Some kind of metal piece there. It almost looks like part of a furnace or fireplace. See the burn marks where the wood existed. Even over there by the window, you can see it as well. So the wood all burnt out of these buildings, but they still stand. Who knows what that big chunk of metal was? So this is a little bit longer building here. Really, a lot of that left of this structure, but still out in front, you can see the poles, like where the porch was out in front of it. Probably had a porch out in front here, right out in this area. And the poles are burnt. And if I'm not mistaken, last time, it was a while, like a year and a half ago, that we had came out here, and it looks cleaner, like maybe they have cattle that are eating the long grass, so it's easier to get around. But the cross beams for the windows were still here. It looks like they took them out for safety or they fell, because these beams that are down here were still up in those doorways. So yeah, they definitely cleaned this up, because there was a lot of burnt wood laying in the floor in here trying to get through. So this one had 2 rooms, a couple doors, a couple windows. You can smell, it still smells like fire here from original. And this is all the way back in 2020. And that poor old tree, all the history that it knows, took some damage in the fire. That little lizard right there scared the heck out of me. Popped up from right in front of me and scooted across. He's pretty good size. Good sized lizard. He's wondering what we're doing. It's like, hey, this is my area. It's my place. Look at him looking at me. What are you doing? There you go. You're on YouTube now, buddy. So this is one of the famous pictures or locations here in Stateline Ghost Town. Stateline being on the state line of Nevada and Utah. When you come up the road to see it, this is the first marker that you're going to see. And most people that put something online for this show this as one of the popular photos of Stateline Ghost Town. And it's still here with its ornate beauty and heavy iron inside the fireplace. It made it through the fire, as most chimneys do. So we're at the base of the mountain. The giant squirrel just ran by. And on top of the hill is going to be the mill that was up there with the cyanide tanks. But look at this chunk of metal that's right here. If anybody knows what this is, let me know. Obviously had some gearing or something here, probably a belt or gearing or something that drove it around like a tumbler almost. That is huge. It must have fell down from the mill up the hill. That big building up there burnt in 2020 because it was intact. And we're going to go up there and walk around and explore that building right above those tanks. So as we're climbing up this hill, the discovery of gold and silver in 1896, well, it spurred rapid growth. It transformed this small camp into a town of over 100 residents and then to 300 residents by 1903. And what we're walking through up this hill right now was where all the work was being done after the gold and silver came out of these hills. So the town boasted a hotel, general store, saloons, a blacksmith shop, and a restaurant. And most of those were located on that main street area where we were. But this right here is where a lot of the people worked. You can see all this heavy iron on the ground. You know, if you know what this is, let me know. It looks like pipe connectors of some sort, because they would have had to have a lot of water going up the hill to get to these cyanide tanks, and I'm guessing they would have pumped it from down below where water would run at one time. There's no creeks here now. They got it out of some kind of a, I guess a spring, but you could see all this metal that's been coming down the hill. Now, Stateline was also known for its connection to outlaws and cattle rustlers who used the area as a route for moving stolen livestock. Now, I know that in Salt Lake area and around those areas, they used to take the livestock and then run them through these valleys as kind of a haven, because there was no law here for some time. And I believe it was the sheriff out of Pioche that actually came here. He was ruthless and actually came down to this area and helped them bring the law to the area. I mean, I think it was the first couple of days, put multiple people away and shot a couple of people in bar fights and saloons. So kind of a tough little sheriff that was around here back in the day. But after that, you know, Stateline closed up. And as the mines exhausted and all the resources went away, the town declined and the population kind of dwindled, leaving behind only the ruins that we're looking at currently. You know, World War II happens, they use all the resources, the men had to go away, the country's at war, and that stopped a lot of the laboring in these mining towns, as we needed those resources for other things besides mining for silver and gold. So this is it. This is the top. This was all housed in this tin you see on the ground. With fire and everything else that happened here, all the wood structure was burned away. You can see some of it even laying up on top of the conveyor belts as the roof collapsed. You can see where the belt drives were that powered all this machinery, and also all the gearing that's on top of these cyanide tanks over here to the left. But this would have been inside the building. This would have been making a heck of a lot of noise with all these big engines here. And then all the gearing that was inside this building. You can see the old piping and water connectors and chimney. And if you look inside these, what look like generators, you can see all the workings inside there that work like big pistons, big wheels that turn. So these giant wheels here turned, driving all this machinery up and down. Help me out on this. Was this like a stamp mill that did this? Is this what a modern day stamp mill would look like? Or what would these generate? Power and energy to turn the stirring of the cyanide tanks? But it smells like fire in here. And all the metal and tin crunching under our feet. A little bit of an eerie feeling, that's for sure. But look at the mess that was inside this building. Even where the big pieces of wood came out of the ground, you can still see where they're burnt right at our feet. Right below here, some major posts that went up to hold the building. And then right over there, below all that machinery that's hanging down, you can see more. So they drove these big pieces of timber in the ground to hold up the roof. That all burnt, and the tin got scorched and just fell to the ground. And you can see it's just laying around here in piles with the wind making a bunch of noise. So this is around the back or the top, looking off the hillside. Now this mill up here, you see way down is the Weekend Escapades van way over in the left corner. That's how far up we've came. But also in the distance, you'll see the storefront right over there, just right above the van is where that would be, is the storefront where Main Street would be. And all the block buildings are right there, right center frame. So you'd have a view of where to go for a whiskey or a beer after you got done with all this hard work. And that was your lifestyle. And then one day, it just goes away. Man, that was a good-sized jackrabbit that just jumped up. There's wildlife hiding all over in this stuff. Now look at this here. Look at that auger system that's still here. Went right up through there. Came out that end. There's a lot of work went into making this. Well, this is a real ghost town. This is the top of the hill. There's a very poorly outlined road, very rough and steep to get up here. This is one of the main shafts of Stateline. I know they've covered this in cement and rebar, because this was at one time a big mine, huge mine shaft. And you can see it there. The lumber is still inside there going down. We'll try to get an angle on that to see it. Maybe zoom in. It makes it difficult with the rebar. So all these shafts were dug by men. The equipment couldn't get up here. They had to use maybe like those pneumatic guns to chip away at all this and knock this down. I can't imagine walking up that hill that we just walked up just to get to work. I would hope they were able to ride a donkey or something up here, because that was tiring. And then you have to get inside here and work in this shaft, in the heat, in the cold. And who knows what the wages were. Probably not very good. Now, I don't know if you caught it on the video. As we're looking in here, there's still snow at the bottom. So at the very bottom of this shaft, this is a huge hole in the ground. I mean, this is, all the places we've been, this is probably the biggest one I've seen with rebar over it. This is a monster mine. And again, still snow at the bottom because the sun just never hits it. It's got to be a lot cooler down there. And now that I'm looking, there's a lot of crushed timbers for mining going down the hill as well as up the hill. So this was the entrance, and it must have went both directions. One towards the mill and then one up in the hill area here. So if anybody knows a lot more about this mine here, maybe a lot of you have worked or traveled around and been to these locations and have been mining and know a lot more about it than I do, please share in the comments below. So on the way out, this abandoned cabin. It's kind of roadside here on the dirt road, very rough dirt road. Headed from Modena up to Stateline Ghost Town. It feels like an eternity on this road because it's so rough. But it's worth it. Finding these old blown out shacks. Knowing that at one time, somebody either homesteaded in here or had a little mining camp. And made this their home. Kind of going in what appears to be the front door. What's left of the front door. And the tin is just making all kinds of fun noise. An old building with some modern day water bottles. I think you'd take them with you and not leave garbage behind. That's just the way it's done, I guess. You know, it even has a little bit of cement work out back here. Got a little patio or an entranceway. This is old. You can see the roof and the paint still coming off there. This wall really falling in. The whole back of it's falling in here. This door's still hanging on the old hinges. You get the real angle on the walls. You can see how it just caved in with age. There's pieces of it laying all the way out here when it fell over. Maybe somebody had a friend or a relative that wanted to come up here and work with them. And added that on for them. Aluminum windows. Somebody upgraded. Kind of strange to think that somebody added aluminum windows there to it. Must have been using it for something. It's got a cement floor here. And this is one door going in with no doors going to the next room. Kind of like a separate little bunk area there. Not going into the main part of the house. It's just a separate area. Maybe it was. Maybe it was like two cabins or 3 cabins where 3 different people lived here. Workers, maybe. Very interesting. Well, that's going to do it for today. From Stateline Ghost Town, in front of this amazing abandoned old miner's shack. We hope you enjoyed the adventure, and until the next one, goodbye from Weekend Escapades.